Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Good evening, and thank you for attending this momentous occasion as we officially announce the candidacy of Raul Reyes Jr. as Texas Representative for District 23. First, a few words from our campaign manager, Raul Reyes Jr.
Can everybody hear me? Yeah? Y'all can hear me? My name's Frank Lopez Jr. I want to say thank you to everybody for showing up. At the young age of 18, I joined the U.S. Army as a military policeman. I served overseas in Germany and in Honduras. And when I started my journey as a man, I met people and I started to realize what that sense of patriotism is. As a young man, working alongside other young persons, men and women, I realized that there was a breed of people in this country that was willing to give their lives for the nation, for each other. 3 years later, I got out, I joined the United States Border Patrol. That was in 1988. 30 years later, in 2018, I retired with 30 years of experience. I served on the ground in Del Rio and Comstock at the headquarters of Del Rio and our headquarters in Washington, D.C. I started feeling a burning, yearning sensation in my heart that God wanted to do something. So 5 years before I was, mandatory, I got out because I knew God was doing something. So December I get out, January I go to a meeting in Uvalde and I meet Raul. And I knew that God was doing something with this man. And He put in my heart to befriend him, to get to know him, to be available to him, to make my expertise, my experience, my knowledge available to him. Fast forward, he asked me to be his campaign manager. Sometimes, folks who look at the political scene, they'll say, who is this guy? I'm just a man. I'm a child of God. I'm a man of God. I believe in the Lord Jesus Christ. And I know that my brother has a calling upon his life. I'm an ordained minister. I had the privilege of initiating the chaplaincy program for the Border Patrol that now serves our thousands of agents and men and women. God used me. I know what it's like to be called. And I know that Raul has been called. And that's another thing about Raul is that he has years of expertise in the federal government, in the military. And one thing that I learned in my 33 years of government service is that there are people managers and then there are leaders. There are those people who inspire others. There are those who can touch a person so deeply that it inspires them to go over and above and beyond what they thought they were able to do. I know that Raul is such a man. And I know that what I see and what his family sees and what his friends see, you soon will see. You're going to feel it. You're going to know that the hand of God is upon this man. And so today I just want to say, our country is in chaos. We're being invaded. That's what it is. Our nation is under attack from many different directions and in many different forums, in many different ways. When I retired, the men and women gave me this banner. It flew over our station. They signed it. And so I shout out to the men and women at Comstock Station, the men and women across our country, to our brothers and sisters in arms. We have a man here, a man who's going to stand up for what's right, a man who believes in God, who believes in the Constitution. He's going to go out there, he's going to show you. So hitch up, get on for the ride. It's going to be a great one. God bless you all.
Great words there, Frank. Thank you. So my name's Richard Ruiz. I've known Raul for about 4 years. We both served in the military, the Air Force. That's where we met in our last duty assignment. So it all started when I met him at the Air Force Cyber Center. So there's only one for the Air Force. And both of us worked there. Quite honestly, I did not know what he did about Raul when I met him. We were co-workers. We worked in different divisions. We kind of, being Texans, we had a lot in common. So we shared some personal stuff to each other. There was one time that I went to him at his office to seek some personal career advice. I was really not sure whether I was going to continue to stay in the military or I was going to retire. And that was my time. And I knew that he was already doing that. So when I went into his office, Raul listened to me. He offered words of encouragement, knowing that God was in control of everything. He also provided some wise counsel in what direction I needed to take. And that was very important to me because normally you don't get that from other officers. Usually they're looking to promote themselves or move on. But he was a true friend, and I had just recently met him about a year earlier. But he did something that was very unusual, especially being a military officer. One thing we can't do in the military is talk about God and talk about politics. It's very taboo for an officer or other members of the military to say something that way. But what Raul did is he closed the door and said, "Let me pray for you." So after he prayed for me on that decision that I was about to make, I knew what kind of person, what kind of man Raul is. You see, Raul grew up in Del Rio, Texas, so he's a fellow Texan. He knows the area. He knows the situation and the issues and the crisis that is going on in the world. He answered the call to join our nation as an Air Force officer and then retired after 20 years of service. That's the 1%ers. 1% of our nation's citizens actually serve in the military. He's part of that group. He served in many parts of the world, including Central America, defending our freedoms. And see, he understands the drug issues and the problems that we have that are causing the drug epidemic that we have here in our nation, plus all the migration issues and all the other things that are going on. He understands it firsthand because he worked it. He has successfully started his own business. He has his own construction company in San Angelo. He builds homes for low-income families. A lot of this information, I'm giving you kind of a quick synopsis, you can find on our website. I'm not going to give you all that, but you can go look at it and find for yourself. He has worked in the private and public sector for the past 4 years. And now he brings us to this. He answered the call, as Frank mentioned. God does not call the qualified, he qualifies the call. And that's what's going on right now. He has given up everything, his career, to become your representative for Congress. Raul is a man of integrity, high character, and steadfast resolve. I know this man's heart. He loves God. He loves his family. He loves the great state of Texas. And he loves America. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor and my privilege to introduce Lieutenant Colonel Retired Raul Reyes Jr., your next Texas representative for District 23.
Hopefully you can hear me. Is it working? Yeah. Well, there's only one way, and that would be down after those words, right? So let me start by thanking the good Lord. And so everything I've ever done, I've asked for God's discernment. And so in making this decision about if we're going to run for Congress, I was talking to a gentleman earlier, and I admitted that it was a tough decision. And so I'm going to make a quick analogy here, real quick. Anybody here a bull rider?
Sure. Yeah.
Well, so my mom said I was crazy, but so I'll tell you about working ranches with my grandparents here in a little bit. But I got into bull riding in Lyle Sankey is a rodeo school that you go to. So I ran up to Charlie Thompson's ranch up in Lubbock, ready to learn how to bull ride. And I had to realize how big a beast of a bull can be. But you don't really know that till you kind of get over on the chute and you kind of tie your hand in, you see. And Charlie Thompson is coaching me because some of the other guys are out there, and he says, "Roll on, you got to call the gate." I said, "How hard is it to open the gate?" Right? Until you get in the back of that beast and you tie your hands and he snarls at you. I was just sweating profusely. I was about to pass out, to be honest with you. And so I could hear Charlie screaming, "You gotta call the gate." And the reason was you don't want to be inside the chute for more than a minute and a half because the bull gets restless and he'll bang you around, and next thing you know, you're done. And way off in the distance, I hear Charlie Thompson, "Call the gate, call the gate." And I said, "What about the gate?" And he opened it. And I went flying. So that's kind of what I'm reminded of. The gentleman I was speaking to, he asked me, "Well, how hard was it?" I'm like, it was tough. Because we've given everything up to run for Congress. And a lot of it, and I'll get into here in a minute, but it's the last 2 weeks prepping for today, I'm humbled that there's this many people here, and absolutely humbled. And so it's awesome thing of God that He's called all of you to come listen to me. And I was going to ask you to donate before the speech is over in case I bomb it, but that's a joke. It's a joke. And I'm horrible at jokes too, by the way. But we're going to call the gate right now. And so I proudly announce that I'm running for Congress in the 23rd Congressional District to represent you guys. So. I want to start off by, I got a speech here that I'm just going to mingle in and out of, and but I want to thank a few folks here. Certainly, Frank, he's right. It was sort of an ordained moment. I can't even explain it. I was looking for, I had enough of the current situation, like a lot was thinking, and I kept looking around, looking at my wife. I said, "Somebody's got to do something." And she said, "Well, why don't you do something?" Are you asking me to call the gate? So I met Frank there, but wonderful man, his wife. They did all the decorations. Thank you, I appreciate that a whole lot. Somebody rolled in and says, "Is President Trump going to be here?" I said, "I hope so." I'm going to get to that in a minute, too. Thank you, Rich. Ed Garza, who I've known for like 20-something odd years. Javier is an amazing voice, right? Amazing voice. And certainly my mom and dad. I'm the son of a legal immigrant. Raul Reyes is from Mexico. I tell everybody, my dad came here to contribute. I learned that a long time ago. Somebody had to put it in the right words for me. Not to take. And so I don't think he envisioned I'd be up here running for Congress. And I'm going to tell you straight up, I do everything to honor God and my parents and my wife and my children. If you allow me, I will represent and honor you as well. That's how I roll, okay? I don't know where she got the red hair from, but that's my sister. I love her to death. The Medina County community has just been amazing. Mr. Larry Sitter, where are you? Sir, thank you. You've been a terrific friend. Where's RL? There you are, sir. Thank you. Terry Dickerson, is he around? Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. There's a whole lot of you that just called me and offered their prayers and their support, and I thank you a whole lot. Who's got my bank account? Did I lose it? Oh, yeah, there it is. So I'm going to tell you all straight out, I'm a proud member of the MAGA Club. Yeah. And, I put it on, I take the pictures, but we had this conversation before I came in here today, and my wife was saying, "Don't you think you wish you were just watching TV and not having to worry about all this other stuff?" I said, "No, somebody's got to do this." But the point being that I thought about Donald Trump. Can you imagine the weight that is on that man's shoulders? Consistently. Democrats and never-Trumpers. People that just absolutely don't want him to do the things that we want him to do. So I think the two best presidents of this century is going to be Ronald Reagan, because he is, and Donald Trump. Going to go down in history as one of the I probably will tell you, my sister gave me this hat. I almost broke down in tears because she'd gone to Washington, D.C. We don't always have to agree on everything or how we say it, but that's turned out to be one of the blessings. Can you imagine a Hillary Clinton presidency?
Oh, no.
Oh, my Lord. I had enough of the previous regime, and so I'm proud to say Donald Trump is doing everything we need to do, and he's got my vote, okay? So, with that said, let me just kind of give you a quick glimpse of making sure I'm staying on track here. Rich already mentioned it. He and I worked at the Cyber Defense Center down here at Lackland. I grew up in his world as an Air Force guy. We used to be called communications officers, and we got a little older, we realized grouping computers together and turning them to networks were hackable, that people were infiltrating the system. So we became cyber defense warriors. And so in our later years, we became the folks who protect the information. Critical links, like for instance, when you see predators running around in the Middle East, those links have to be connected and secured. And so that's what I did for 21 and a half plus years. I'm always saying almost 22 years. And so it was an exciting ride, a dual track of mine. And this is the important part that Rich alluded to here is, and I want everybody to know this part, because my father and his household said, you're going to keep learning English, but you're going to speak Spanish. They didn't want me to lose the language and the culture. When I joined the Air Force, you'd be all surprised that in the Air Force, there's a lot of Spanish speakers, but on the officer side, there really isn't. So I volunteered for Iraq and Afghanistan and numerous other places, and I always ended up in Colombia, Ecuador, Honduras. And I counter-argued. I was volunteered for Afghanistan my 20th year in the Air Force. And because I knew Spanish, they rerouted me back to Puerto Rico. Now, let me tell you a little bit about Central and South America. The Northern Triangle is the most dangerous place you can be. And I ran in and out of that place all the time. Colombia used to be a combat zone. Most people don't know that. And we'd be down in places like, and y'all, you don't know these names, but I'll say Barranquero, Tres Esquinas, way down there in the jungles, flying around, meeting with our officer counterparts. But we were grinding out the counter narcotics that were flying out of Colombia out here. And so when you ask me if we need a wall, I build it 10 times higher than they need, and I do it yesterday. There are things on that side. There are things I wish I could explain to you, but they're just on the different secret squirrel side. I'm going to leave it like that. And so we come with experience, and where I don't know, I hitch myself with a great team. Frank, retired Border Patrol. Rich, also a cyberspace guy. I got Miss Linda back here. She's high-tech database guru. And then Blake Taylor did not show up, but he's a web developer. He's the one who did that and made me look really good. So that's who I am. After I left the Air Force, I went and did a little over a year stint at Southwest Texas Junior College. I quickly went from Chief Information Officer to VP. But the Air Force called me back. And we'd already bought land right there next to Forest, which is a wonderful place to live. And so when the Air Force came calling, we decided to move back here, and we started working at Randolph. At Randolph, I did $1 million contracts that do training and engagement with foreign partners all the way throughout the Middle East. So what you're seeing, and sometimes it doesn't look like it, because I'm scrappy sometimes, but we've got a lot of wealth and knowledge here. I've got a lot of leadership experience, strategic, operational, and tactical. That's what I'm going to bring to the forefront here. And so we need to understand there's people that, I'm just going to say it, the incumbent is making decisions on things I don't think he understands. And it's putting lives in danger. So why am I here? Because one day I got up and I saw in the news the worst news you could see. 9 out of 10 little girls, they all have to be pregnancy tested because they're being violated. And that's bad. I saw a lot of that in Central and South America. As you can see, it grabs me because there is poverty and there is danger down there, but they are not failed states. You understand? Those states are not failed states. Venezuela is on the brink, but there's no reason for thousands of people to be coming up here unless they are trying to catch them on the loophole. And that's making our places safe. I got up one day and I realized in Del Rio, Texas, there's 50 or 100 souls running through there because they just got released. Soon, we're going to see it here. Somebody said they're trying to move the Nueces River, or the Rio Grande to the Nueces River, meaning they're trying to change the place. So when you see this up here, yeah, I am trying to defend our way of life. Texas really is different. And I've been everywhere. I can actually say that. So, as we move forward, you're going to get honesty, integrity. As best I can, I'm going to work every day for you. And I want you to visualize this, but when it's all said and done all the way to March and hopefully November, and then when we go out to DC every day, these guys are going to have to drag me off the field. They're literally going to have to put me in bed because I'm going to give you everything I've got. I've left a lot of things so that we can focus on this. Why? Because our current representative is no longer representing us.
That's right.
And that's all there is to it. Today, he voted with 7 other Republicans for the Equality Act. Anybody know what that is? Anybody read up on that? Yep. It infringes on religious rights. Go home and read it today. What started it for me was, he was up here, where's that gas station? Back down there, I'm sorry. We had him down here about 2 years ago. I asked, why did you not vote with the Republicans to repeal Obamacare? Let me just say this. My wife will tell you the day they passed that bill drove me like crazy. Because the government told me what to do with my life. Whether it was a tax or not, it doesn't matter. The federal government is not there to mandate you what you do or don't buy. So when I asked that gentleman why he did that, he came up with some $800 billion tax on Medicare. So I looked it up. New York Times looked it up here about a month ago. They actually admitted it. Some Medicare cuts are good. You prune. I didn't say we're going to cut Medicare, but you have to, it's like a bush. You have to take it and prune some things. I'll give you a quick instance. If you go to one facility, they pay them, let's say, $15. If you go to another facility, that's more of a doctor related, they pay them $10. They adjust it so that it's 10 and 10, not 15 and 10, saving us $5 for every one of those visits. That's pruning the program. So nobody's taking away from medical to the patient. They're just adjusting the program. And he looked at me and said, I can't do it for that reason. Then you're not doing your homework. We have to explain that to folks. I'll do that. Okay. Let me go back to my cheat sheet, as I've got a couple of things I do want to say. And I'm gonna sort of wrap it up with this and then put us on a better tune here. But our representative wants a virtual wall. Rich and I can look at a virtual wall. I can pick you a 13-year-old and hack it. The neighbor downstairs, they can hack that thing. So when I hear virtual wall, I get a little confused and perplexed. He and I read a lot of Sun Tzu. Anybody know who Sun Tzu? He wrote The Art of War. And and there's principles of war. One of them is mass. If you do enough mass of people like they're doing at the border, you will overwhelm things. That sound familiar? Where's Frank? Frank?
Right here.
Yeah, they're overwhelming the Border Patrol. Is that right, sir?
Yes, sir.
All right, this morning in the Del Rio newspaper, in fiscal year 19, this is fresh. Look at the Del Rio News Herald this morning. 12,000 families have been admitted. 6,000, the newspaper says, they can't attribute to. They can't find it. Somehow they got through. And why? Because we don't have the proper barriers. Virtual walls are a complement, but they're not the end solution. And we need to start looking at those things in that manner. So, we can do a virtual wall, but that's not going to be the end result. We've got to seal this board, folks, and do it quick. Because the border patrol's being overwhelmed. We have a whole lot of folks that are moving in without assimilation. And my father will tell you that's no good. We all know that. We are humane people. We love people. But you got to come here legally, law-abiding way. You've got to get here. This is what you get when legal immigration is done right. So, all right. A couple more things, and then we'll wrap it up. Let's take a look at this website and put ourselves in a much better mood, right? We're going to release this out to the public. In here, you'll find everything we're for. I'm pro-life, and we have a plan. If you've heard, Alabama passed the heartbeat bill. We are for overturning Roe versus Wade in this campaign. This Let me explain that what Alabama did is trying to strike Roe versus Wade right in the heart. What we need to do is get the Supreme Court to send it back to the states. See, the reason we're all upset is in 1973 they did a judicial activist thing, and all of a sudden it became indirect law, so you couldn't go counter abortion. This is why we're the United States. We ought to be able to vote for everything we want. So, we are pro Second Amendment. Now, our representative, about a month and a half ago, voted with the Democrats, H.R. 8, look that up, for gun control. Every transaction, not the ones that you give to your children, but if you were to give another somebody outside your first of kin, you have to go to a federal agent to officially document it. How crazy is that? I am never, ever going to let anybody pry your guns out of your hands, much less mine. So you can count on for the Second Amendment, okay? There's a few others, but what I like to do is turn it over to what is it that we're going to do beyond the issues that are typical and that I'm going to protect as a representative for you. I grew up in Del Rio, and one of the problems along the border is parents, like my dad, have to find construction work or any other work outside of Del Rio because there's just not enough work there. So kids like I was before, we see our dads on the weekends because that's just the environment, okay? And I'm trying to change that. I don't remember the year, 1980, 81, but Levi Strauss packed their bags from Del Rio, Texas, Highway 90 over here by downtown San Antonio and San Angelo, and they went south. I stood at the Rio Grande with Frank this past Tuesday, sir, is that right? And we looked over, the Del Rio News Herald was there, and I asked the lady, I said, look over, and you see 5 or 6 buildings on that side. Those are maquiladoras. Maquiladoras are factories. When did that happen? So we're wasting time with the current incumbent. What we need to do is act quickly so we can go work with Donald Trump and anybody else who will bring jobs back to this area. Period. And that's going to be the brunt of it. Secure the border, bring jobs back. Let me give you a little more details on the jobs program for us. What I like to do is build a coalition with the mayor, city council, anybody who will work with us. We need to start working, grooming the right workforce, because see, the problem is Samsung, Toyota, all these folks, they end up over here because this is where the population is with the right workforce. Well, if we do the right workforce in the environments of Dimit, Zavala, Uvalde, Hondo, or past Hondo all the way to Valverde and into West Texas, then we can start looking like Simi Valley. Before you think I'm crazy, you have to think big. You gotta think big. I've said that to people and I go, boy, you're crazy. No, I'm not. If we don't plant that mustard seed today, we're never gonna get a tree tomorrow. So last one you're gonna get, and I'm gonna give you one last one, and then I'm gonna wrap it up. I don't know how to do anything other than what I'm gonna tell you I'm gonna do. I know all of us, including myself, right now we're suffering under the representation of someone who thinks I voted for him, I'm gonna tell you straight out. I voted. And I've been let down like a lot of you. I'm a little angry too. I'm up here because I'm gonna do something about it. I need your help. So if you're a little upset that your representative turned into a typical politician going on Bill Maher, the HBO show, Seth Miller, the comedian show, MSNBC, CNN, then we need to do something about it. And what I hear is that the Republican Party, that we're trying to figure some things out. I'm good with that. I have no issues with that. But in the primaries, this is where we tug of war.
That's right.
And I'm going to leave it all on the field for you. I'm going to show you that I will do what I say I will do. But I need your help. We're going to have to bring out families. Bring out grandma, bring out whoever's eligible to vote. And I'm going to say the same message down in Del Rio. Half of these folks over here are from Del Rio. They're my family. They moved up north because there's no jobs in Del Rio. I want to go home, folks. But there's no work in Del Rio. The same thing can be said for Maverick County and all the way to Pecos and some of those other places. We've got to change that. That's the district we represent. We can do this, but you have to think big. Secure Texas, a prosperous Texas tomorrow, and leadership you can trust. I will be your good candidate. Thank you, everybody. Let's mingle. I appreciate y'all being here.